Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Dan Gravo from the Stark County Catholic High Schools and overseeing all of that. Well, I was just about to ask you, do you have to be Catholic? Because what if you just love what you see happening in the classroom or on the football field or basketball court or what have you, and you say, well, I'd love my kids to get that experience. Do you have to be a Catholic to attend?
Absolutely not. There's a large number of students at both schools that aren't of the Catholic faith.
Would a child have a point where they feel different because they're not of the Catholic faith?
No, I had friends in school that didn't go to Catholic church and felt very comfortable. So no, it's faith-based, and we're welcoming to everybody.
It's the same Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've had your own wonderful experience, obviously, because you're a product of this type of education, and you've been drawn to it now in this newly created position. Talk about that a little bit, Dan.
Well, as you mentioned, that was the draw to the position, the opportunity to give back, and the experiences I had growing up led me to what I did throughout my life, and I appreciate them more and more as I get older. As I mentioned before, the character development, the discipline, those are all things I needed growing up. And it was just when I saw that there was an opportunity to give back to, again, the experiences I had, it was a no-brainer for me.
Let's talk a little bit about the teachers.
Yes.
A special group of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Tell me about them.
Well, you're not working at Catholic schools to retire early. Let's be honest. They're there because they believe in faith-based education.
Yes.
And there's a number of teachers at both schools that have been there a long time. And it's the backbone. I mean, they're the heartbeat of the school is what they do in the classroom. I'm grateful. There's still some teachers at St. Thomas that were there that I had 25 years ago when I graduated, and they're still excellent teachers. And they dedicate their lives to teaching individuals in a faith-based environment again.
And specifically, you've got some pretty impressive folks. Yeah. Talk about some of the standouts. They're all good?
Yes, absolutely. But there's a Darrell Woods that was Stark County Teacher of the Year, I believe multiple times, was up for national awards as a science teacher. He just recently came back to St. Thomas Aquinas to teach science. We're thrilled. I had him in grade school, and he was an excellent teacher. And the fact that he would come back to St. Thomas is remarkable, that he wants to finish up his career teaching those same students. I just think it's wonderful.
He just wants to be in the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about your experience. You had him. What made him so... Did you experience the kind of teacher who is up for National Teacher of the Year?
Absolutely. He taught honors courses, and he just related well with the students. He, presented the information so you understood it, and he was just great with teenagers, and that's obviously you have to be able to speak to them so they understand it. And when you're a high school kid and you realize someone's a great teacher, that means you're a great teacher, because you don't always at that age maybe appreciate. And someone like him stood out. A Dr. Kroc I had for both Latin and history I will never forget. I mean, just tremendous, tremendous teachers that I still talk about and think about almost on a weekly basis.
What was it about them specifically that really impressed you?
Again, just how they incorporated the faith in what they did, how they related to students. They weren't easy, which, it's not like they were one of the teachers you went to if you wanted to be able to sit back in class and how they challenged you as a student. I needed that. And Dr. Kroc was as strict as a teacher as you would ever have. But I appreciated him. And, I wish today I had an opportunity, he passed away a number of years ago, that I could tell him that. I would love if he was still there because of the impact. And then as I go on and live my life, I look back at some of the lessons, discipline or character development or just the way he challenged me that, was, led for me personally, I think, to be able to be successful in my career.
It is interesting, isn't it, when we look back to the teachers that made the most impact? They weren't necessarily the easiest teachers.
No.
They were the ones who really commanded a little respect in the classroom.
Absolutely.
And, it would be nice to be able to tell them. So I have a feeling they know.
Yeah. Well, I've thanked a couple that are already there for. I apologize for my conduct and then thank them for what they did for me. So, and they've been very gracious in that. And, it was, as we spoke to both faculties early on, it was pretty crazy to stand up, and I believe there's 5 teachers that are still there that I had.
And you're their
boss. To stand in front of them and to
say,
yeah, I'm back, sorry.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, and they've all been great, but it's really nice to see their faces still.
I hope
they're the reason I'm at where I'm at. I
exactly.
mean, basically, so.
They invested in you.
Absolutely.
And now they are successful because look at what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can take pride in that.
Yeah.
But I do think none of us wants to be judged by how we acted in high school.
Yes. And then they've all said that, Dan.
Test.
Yeah.
Man.
They haven't held it against me. So.
Well, they were in high school once, too. You must have goals for, probably goals as you're developing this job as you go.
Yeah,
what would you
absolutely.
like it to look like at the end of this first year?
Yeah.
And then let's talk about, 5-10 years down the road.
End of the first year, we want to have, our strategic plan in place. Our board that's overseeing both schools are just this month will be their second meeting. So they're new too, and they're working on some of the policy type things, like I said, a strategic plan. We'll have enrollment plans, short-term and long-term in place for both schools. Also development plans, 1, 3, and 5 year that'll look out for both schools in place. I think those are critical, along with marketing, which works with both areas very strongly. So we'll have those marketing plans in place. And enrollment growth. We want our apps to be up. We want our deposits to be up. We're going to run it very similar to higher education, where you track that stuff throughout the year, and then we can look back next year to where we were at this point. So just to have all those processes, policies, procedures, and evaluate both schools throughout the year to see exactly what we need. We want that in place by the end of this year.
Do you have something to be a springboard for all of that? Have each of the individual schools sort of build up something to get you going so you can take a look at both of those things? Or are you starting from scratch?
No, there are places we're starting from scratch, but there's also some systems in place with each school. So, one school may do better in advancement or have more of a system in place than the other schools. Same with enrollment. So we're using the ideas from both schools, but we're also going to make sure those plans at each school mirror each other also. So the enrollment plans for both schools will be very similar, marketing plans, development plans. So largely it's from scratch, but there are some policy procedure systems in place at both schools.
And for the first time ever, they're not competing against each other for students.
Mm-mm.
You are working with everybody together to get each school the right number of students and the right students.
Yeah, and that's the message when we go into the elementary schools is we're here for Stark County Catholic high schools. You can make the best choice for you, but we will speak on behalf of Catholic secondary education.
Well, let's talk about primary.
Yeah.
Is that in the future for you to be overseeing as well?
Yes. After this first year, we're going to the Holy Cross Academy schools will be under the same umbrella as the high schools. So it'll be one Catholic educational system in the county.
What kind of a learning curve is there for you then, Dan, as you, first of all, get acclimated to working with the high schools, and then it's kind of a whole new animal, isn't it, with the probably larger classrooms of the younger ones?
Yeah, it's a little bit, but thankfully I was involved in a lot of different areas in higher education, and really a lot of the experiences I had there are mirroring what I'm seeing at secondary education. So I've been through it, whether it's marketing or advancement or anything, that you can think of that maybe you'd see in higher education with enrollment. I see all that now in secondary education. So I've worked with really strong marketing teams and development teams, so I've seen all that.
Isn't it amazing how we might not be doing this on purpose? We take almost a patchwork of a career where, this looks interesting. I'd like to try this for a little while. And that's kind of an interest too. I'll do this. And then you put it all together and you say, oh my gosh, it's like God had a plan.
Yeah.
It all works together because look at your unique background of the different areas. And then here you are doing this. no pressure.
Yeah, as I was researching the position and when I saw that there was going to be a position available, and I just looked back kind of at myself, looked internally, is this something that, first I'm qualified for, that I'd like to pursue? I realized that as you look, it's like, wow, this is kind of the culmination of all my 20 plus years in faith-based educational organizations, and I can do this, and this is, I thought, the perfect position for me. So
they must have thought so too.
Yeah, thankfully, yeah.
You got the job.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting. So like 5-10 years down the road, what would you like this to look like?
Well, I'd like solid enrollment at both schools. I think we need to get to a place where we're financially sustainable based on our enrollment, which is, again, the same as higher education. It's largely enrollment-based. With thriving programs, I'd like to have team sharing with the faculty teaching at both schools. That would allow us to offer additional program at each school. If a teacher teaches a class both at Central and then St. Thomas Aquinas. And again, it goes from there. Fundraising with enrollment growth will obviously lead to fundraising growth, so we can update some of the facilities and continue to build or provide facilities that each school needs.
Are you allowed to take us behind the doors of those planning sessions and what's entailed in putting together a strategic plan to get from here to there?
Well, we've just started it. Again, it's been a little over 4 weeks. This is the 5th week, and we've had one board meeting. So we're setting all that into place. Largely will be enrollment, fundraising, marketing, those 3 key areas. And again, where we want to be this year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road.
What kinds of role do parents play in coming alongside with education, working with the school, and working with their own students specifically?
It's critical that parents, I think, are involved in the educational process, and we also want them to be advocates for our school. We're setting up parent ambassadors for both schools that will help us in enrollment growth, that will be willing to reach out to other families and just communicate their experiences. We've asked the parents to be vocal in the community about the positives. As we've had a couple Meet the President's Night, it's been at each school. It's been wonderful to have current parents stand up and speak on their experiences and how positive it's been internally for them and their families. I mean, it's the same thing that we've faced at Walsh & Malone. You need those advocates in the community to spread the good word. So.
How about alumni then as well?
Absolutely. In addition to the parent ambassadors, we are setting up alumni ambassadors also that will help us fundraising, enrollment, and again, being in the community. Both schools have very passionate alumni bases, so it's wonderful to interact with them because they are very passionate about their schools.
I was just going to say, have you heard from alumni?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The outpouring, when this first was announced and we had the opening press conference, the outpouring of support from the alumni base on both sides that were in favor of the changes and the direction we were moving it's been overwhelming early. It's like, wow. I mean, just the positive messages that are coming through is great. So,
well, for people who would want more information, what's the best way to reach you?
Through my email, which is on both websites, on the staff pages. My phone number for each school is on there also. I'd love to sit down. I love to meet people and hear their stories. So anytime anyone wants to meet for a cup of coffee or lunch, or I can come to your office, I'd be proud to do so.
Well, we wish you all the best. Dan Gravo from Stark County Catholic Schools. Congratulations, and thanks for what you're doing in our community.
All right. Thank you, Susie.